Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the EVP podcast.
Yes.
We are EVP, which stands for Energies, Visions, and the Paranormal. So we are bringing to you
Our first episode.
a very first
Yes.
episode of a brand new paranormal podcast that will be covering everything from Sasquatch to all sorts of cryptids to aliens
Yes.
to, and of
Skinwalker
course,
nuts.
ghosts.
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above.
We are very experienced paranormal investigators that have been in the game for many years.
Yes.
I am Tim, aka Beaker.
I'm Dale.
And I'm Derek, DVO.
I know between the three of us, we probably have about 20, 30 years plus of experience in the paranormal field.
Yes.
I know you guys have a lot more than I do. I've been doing this for about 7 years. You guys have been doing this for pretty much your whole lives. I know Dell's had stuff going on his whole life.
Well, investigating the
I've been weird.
paranormal, I'd say maybe 5 years investigating. But just paranormal activity around.
But most of my life getting touched when I don't want to get touched.
Too bad. So I want to touch you.
I don't know if that was paranormal or not.
We all grew up around the paranormal. We've all been very excited to research more about the paranormal and share with you all our stories and our experiences in
Yes.
that, as well as like talk about other topics as well that have to deal with, like I said, the paranormal cryptids and aliens and stuff like that. So we're gonna
Anything
touch on
supernatural, paranormal, even our name, energy, visions, even part of anything holistic as well too. We can even talk
the
about.
metaphysical. We're going to touch on
Yeah.
everything.
So it's gonna be fun, and then we'll also kind of share any of our investigations that we might go on. So we investigate. So if you know, or if you know anyone or yourself has anything, I guess you could say quote unquote haunting happening at your house, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to go investigate, and we'll even talk about that subject here on our show as well.
Now, when we do that, though, we won't reveal any names, addresses, or anything like that. We'll keep everything confidential, except for just some of our findings that we find in people's houses. So no one will never know that it's your house we came to, except for the three of us and you, if you choose to contact us. But we will keep everything confidential on the hush hush.
Yes.
We don't give out information.
It's going to be fun. I think you guys are really like this show. It's going to be a fun show with fun guys.
And me.
The Beaker Boys and the Wild Ginger.
Yes, the Beaker Boys and the Wild Ginger.
Yes.
That was one of the working names for the podcast, but we decided that EVP Podcast was a much better name.
I like that name.
It's a good name. And also, in case you don't know, EVP is a very popular acronym for electronic voice phenomena, which people use as, how would you describe it? Just recordings of spirits?
It's a way for the everyday person to hear spirits talk. It's not something that we normally hear very often. Like sometimes you might hear a disembodied voice, but the idea behind a EVP or electronic voice phenomenon, like you said, is you set up a recorder. Usually use a digital recorder because that's what's available nowadays, or you can even use the recorder on your phone, and you just record yourselves during the investigation talking to the spirits, and every now and then you'll have a spirit that you can actually hear talking back or responding to your questions. And they do have it classified in 3 different classes. There's class A, B, and C, with A being the best, like crystal clear audio. You can understand clearly what they said. B would be slightly less clear. You can hear that they're saying something. You might be able to make out most of the words, maybe not all of it. And then C is like you could definitely hear that there was a voice, but you can't make it out of what it said.
So it's going to be fun. And all the evidence we're going to bring to the table is going to be awesome too. That you guys are going to like. So what do we want to talk about first? First episode, what do we want to get into? The intros.
Let's just introduce more of ourselves, I guess, get more in depth. I guess, so I'll start with myself. I grew up
Hi,
with...
I'm Dale.
Hi guys, I'm Dale. How's my radio voice? That's not okay?
Don't worry, he's been alcoholic for most of his life.
So...
Not really.
I grew up having weird stuff happen to me, not really knowing how to deal with it and stuff, but growing up and having it happen again, there's more outlets, there's paranormal shows. That's how I met Tim, and then kind of started ghost hunting, and then we fell in love.
That was actually funny because I had joined a paranormal team before this one that I kind of helped shape and lead, and
we joined that one.
Well, there was a guy at work that knew that I was really into the paranormal, that I did paranormal investigations, and he was like, "Oh, have you met this guy? Have you met Dell? He's really into that stuff too." And it was probably like the next day we worked together,
Yeah.
just in different areas. We didn't even know each other before that.
Did you guys even see each other or recognize each other in the
No.
hallways? No.
No, because we worked like different shifts.
We worked different
Okay.
shifts. Like he was leaving when I got there.
Okay.
We worked in different departments, so we never saw each other.
Got it.
But he happened to just catch me in the hall one day because when someone describes me as, you know, the tall bearded ginger guy, I'm easy to spot in the hallway once you have that description.
Mm-hmm.
For now, I'll show you on the next episode what I'm talking about. But yeah, the mutual coworker introduced us, and I'm like, yeah, I met Dell and Derek, and we went on a couple of investigations together. I'm like, you know what? Why didn't you guys come and join my team? And then we all decided to leave that team and start our own.
Yes.
Took years. I mean, it was years.
And so me and Dale are brothers, and we ended up, circumstances happened, and we ended up back at our parents' house together, and
Life happened.
we were watching
Roommates.
Yeah, I guess we were roommates. Yeah, again, and we were watching. We've always been into the paranormal shows, and we were watching some of the shows, and we just thought, why don't we just go start investigating? Like we could do this, and so that's what we did. We just started buying equipment,
Doing
and
our own thing.
We started doing our own thing. We just started going to cemeteries first.
Oh, remember? Oh, the first thing that we got at a cemetery that was the coolest thing was that.
Let's circle back around. Don't let me forget.
All right.
And so anyway, we just started doing our own investigations. We started just breaking into places and investigating. And then I guess you, Dale, were just kind of talking to people at work, telling, hey, guess what I'm starting to do just for fun? I guess is that what happened?
Yeah.
And then someone said,
Well, I was kind of telling people about some of the weird experiences I was having.
Okay.
And then I was like talking about how you and I were getting into shit because I was having these experiences again, and I'm like, let's do some shit. Let's do something about it.
Yeah, and then that's when they said, oh, you know who you should talk to?
Yeah. There's a guy here, he has business cards and shit. I'm like, oh, he's super serial about this shit, huh? All right, it's somebody I need to talk to.
And so now we're just one big happy family here. So what were you gonna say? You were gonna say some of our like early
one of our
investigations?
first like messing with equipment.
Uh-huh.
I purchased this one FM sweeper app.
Okay.
And it's like just sweeping stations, like a spirit box would. And it's just skimming through so fast that you cannot make words out of it. And then we finally got something that actually came
So like
through.
these sweeping things, like what would you guys guess? Like in 1 second, how many stations does it probably
In
sweep
1
through?
second?
Yeah.
Probably 5.
So we're like 5. So it's like it'd be hard to like talk.
Yeah, to
Right.
say a word, to get the same voice over 5 stations.
Yeah.
So if you have something like the SB7 Spirit Box, it just scans through FM or AM frequencies, and basically what that does is creating at a really fast speed, like you said, about 5 or 6 channels per second. And what that does is create white noise. The theory behind that is spirits can tap into that white noise and they can talk to you through that white noise.
Right.
And if you notice, whenever you do change a station, it's always like there's the sound of the station coming in, like takes a little bit of time to kind of get the full volume, and then it kind of goes away when you change the station. So when you get something over all those stations and it's the same voice at the same frequency the whole time, it's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
So I remember we got the first voice come through on that at the one cemetery.
Copperton?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I thought you were going with it. Okay.
And that was pretty cool.
Do you remember what it said?
No, because we couldn't get the word out of it, but it was like 2 or 3 syllables.
Yeah.
But it was a woman's voice, and it was like 2 or 3 syllables.
But didn't we have an app, like a phone app, that also picked up words?
Yes.
And didn't it tap into some words that popped up? And can we say 100% it was
I
ghost or spirit?
Looking
No.
back on that, I don't like that app, and I don't even remember what.
But it did seem significant for the situation, though.
And I
The
can't
word
even remember
irrelevant.
what it
I
was.
know.
I can't remember the app, and I can't remember what words showed up.
Just a word popped up that seemed relevant for what we were asking or saying.
Yes.
And so that kind of like was like, whoa, but can we say it was a spirit talking? No, we can't say that. Just, it was interesting.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we do on investigations. When we're trying to talk to spirits and we think we might have gotten some evidence, we're going to try to recreate it the best we can and see if we can't. If we can recreate it, chances are it's probably not paranormal.
A lot of times I think everyone's full of shit whenever I hear about something. I'm like, you're full of shit, prove it. And then when I go there, I'd like to debunk everything. Like, oh, I told you you're full of shit.
Yeah, we try to test it out ourselves and make sure that we believe it is actually paranormal and not some other circumstances that's causing the activity at the time.
Well, I know good example of that was the first investigation the three of us went on was at the formerly known as Family Tree Restaurant. And me and Dill were in the main dining area, and then Beaker, you and some other people were in the back banquet room or private room, and we had opened one of the doors into the kitchen and made a weird, loud squeaking noise. And obviously we pushed through the door, so we heard the squeaking noise. We didn't think much about it. And then you came around, Beaker, and was like, "You guys hear that?" We were like, "No, we didn't hear anything." It sounded like some scream or something. I was, "Oh, it's probably that door." And then you pushed it, and you said, "Yeah, that was it. That was it." So it just was
Good memory. That's a good memory.
I honestly don't remember that. So.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I remember.
You could have totally pulled that out of your ass, and I'm going with it.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
I like it.
Story.
That's one thing.
I feel like I was there. I feel like something I would have said.
That's something we've learned from. We watch the TV shows, and the one that I think is the most accurate show would be Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
With Jason Hawes and
Yes.
his crew.
I love that original show. Just hard to watch.
First time I ever saw it, what I loved about them was the fact that they actually tried to debunk stuff. They didn't just go,
right.
"Oh, it's
Demon!
paranormal."
Demon!
Right.
Run!
And then I was trained by people that have, and I'm still learning from people that have been in the paranormal for, 30 plus years. So, I have my friend Jimmy Lynn Darling, that's out in California, that's been teaching us stuff, and she's been doing this for longer than anybody else I've ever met. So.
No, I know we just talked about how me and Dale got into the paranormal, and we'll tell more details on another episode about kind of where we grew up, some of the experiences that mostly Dale had. But Beaker, I'm curious, you, and maybe you can share with our new listeners, what got you into the paranormal?
Well, it's ever since I was a kid, I've always been into scary movies and ghost stories and stuff like that. Like I grew up loving those scary stories to tell in the dark books.
Oh yeah.
I actually loved them so much that I recently bought them again.
Oh, nice.
What'd you think about the movie?
I thought the movie was actually pretty good. It was fun because the second time I went back and watched it, I bought it on DVD, and I'm watching the stories, and I'm going and finding them in the book and seeing how they compare. And I have to tell you, the movie is pretty tame compared to the books. The books are gruesome. The story about Harold, and then the first one where the kid turns into the scarecrow and the cornfield.
Yeah.
Oh, that is way more gruesome in the book. It's way.
I know.
Worse.
I forgot a lot of those.
Yeah.
But watching that movie brought back a lot of memories.
But yeah, I grew up I realize now as an adult the paranormal's always been around me.
Okay.
I grew up with a spirit in my house, and I didn't know it at the time. But my aunt, who passed away when she was 7, has been with my dad ever since she passed away, and so I grew up with a spirit in my house, not knowing it. But I remember when I was younger, walking home from friends' houses. Sometimes I always felt I thought it would just be me being paranoid. But now when I look back on it, it's possible that I actually did feel presences of other people, because I always felt like there was people watching near me, and I can do that now. I know that myself and Del here have kind of opened up our gifts a little bit. We're both energy workers, and we're both sensitives, so we're not mediums. We don't see or hear spirits, but we can feel their energy, and sometimes we can know what they're thinking or we just get information about them. We use our intuition, and to do some of our investigations. We also use a lot of scientific tools. But what kind of got me into it is I saw Ghost Hunters the first time.
Okay.
And I actually was looking them up online at the time, and I was trying to figure out how I could join their team.
Yeah.
I was just fascinated by what they did. I liked that they debunked stuff. And when I found out they were in Georgia, I was just like, no, it's probably not for me. So fast forward 10 years later, I'm trying to find something fun to do for my best friend, who is absolutely afraid of clowns. And her birthday is in October, so I wanted to do something Halloween-y fun for her birthday. And I literally called every haunted house here in Utah, in the Salt Lake Valley, and they all said they had clowns. So I'm like, this is out. But I remember earlier in that year when I was on a trip to San Diego by myself, someone recommended to kill time to go on a ghost tour.
Okay.
So I looked it up and found that here in Salt Lake, there was a company called Grim Ghost Tours, which I fully endorse. They're not getting paid to say this, but they do offer bus tours, and we went on one. And they drove us around to some paranormal hotspots in Salt Lake and told us a little bit of the history of the place. And then at the end of it, they told us, well, we also do paranormal investigations. So if you ever want to do an actual investigation, we'll do that. So I bought tickets, and my friend and I, for about 6 months, were doing these paranormal investigations. And then we finally met the former leader of the team that we all used to be on. And he invited her and I to be part of the team. And that's also when I found out that she is a medium.
Oh, interesting.
So she's actually, I'd known her for about 10 years at that point, and I had no clue.
What was the tour you took in San Diego?
So I didn't actually take one. Someone
Okay.
recommended one in the Old Town San Diego.
Yep, we
I
took
did-
that one.
I didn't actually do that one. I should have,
Yeah.
but I didn't actually do it. I did other stuff. Went to like the Air and Space Museum and Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Oh,
and stuff
okay,
like that.
alright.
But yeah, it was just, I remember someone telling me about the ghost tours, and I'm like, I wonder if they do that here in Salt Lake. And they do, and they still do it. And they're a great group of people. And I'm thankful that they actually kind of helped me open the door into the paranormal and allowed me to do what I've been doing for the last 7 years, which is help people.
Yeah.
So rewind back to the Old Town
Yes. Let's
ghost
talk about
tour.
that.
So we went on
Me
that.
and Dell did that.
And then by doing that, we found out that the whole tour was just completely out in the open, free range.
You're just walking around the street.
Yeah,
and people
you're
are just
not inside.
watching you on this tour.
The only place we actually did go inside, like one of the hotels, which you could go into at any time
Yeah.
of the day. It's just it was after hours, and they gave us the whole bottom section, and it was closed off just for us. So that was the only place we actually got into after hours. It wasn't much of an investigation. Like there was like 2 K2s, and that was it, right?
Like you said, it was a tour. Like they just showed
Yeah.
you around. Like, these are potentially haunted places, and here's the stories behind them.
Yeah, that's
So we were at the
Whaley House.
Whaley House, and you can feel energies off of that house. And he actually, the gentleman that was giving the tour actually said, "Who wants to try this device?" Do you remember what it was? It was like a K2 meter, but it was different.
It was like a millimeter, wasn't it?
It was like, so you hold on to it, and you know it did like what K2 does, and it just picks up the electromagnetic energy, and it'll go off. And you're standing outside the Whaley House, and it randomly goes off, and it is weird how it randomly goes off. But anyway, I was the one that volunteered to hold that, and that's when it really, I think, started sparking interest in us. Like, hey, we could actually just buy these type of equipments and then just start doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
I think now that Beaker's saying that about San Diego tour, that just reminded me that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been one of the kickoffs for us too.
Yeah, because I actually wanted to do this, like you said, Beaker, when watching Ghost Adventures or the Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
That show I watched from the very beginning as well, and that got me really into it. But I just never wanted to go do it because I felt like, because at the time when that show came out, nothing was going on in my life where I was experiencing paranormal anymore, and I felt like I don't know if I wanted to open that can of worms again. But when that can of worms opened itself, I was like, guess what I'm gonna do?
What do you think? Saying that, like, what do you think it was that? Would you say open up that can of worms again? All right, let me remind you. When do you think it stopped, and then what triggered it to start again? At what age?
I can pinpoint it was around the age of 13 when it stopped.
Okay.
It was when our grandpa moved in with us. For some reason, things were happening to me on a regular basis. The moment he moved in with us, it stopped.
Okay.
Weird.
All right.
And then it started again. I had maybe a small handful of things happen to me up until about my first divorce. After that first divorce, I don't know if it was just the stress level, but that's when things started happening again. But
After the divorce.
or during it,
Okay.
during the whole everything.
Oh, during the demise of the relationship.
Well, no, after it was already okay. This is over. Split, like how, like what we're, I don't know, just like the whole everything, your whole
Okay.
life blowing up.
So stay tuned. We're going to talk more about this on another episode.
Well,
So-
that would make sense too with when you're going through like a traumatic experience, like a divorce or that, or a sickness or anything like that. You do become more susceptible to experiencing paranormal activity because you're not in your right frame of mind. You're kind of your body, your senses.
Well, I can
everything's
tell you what
out
was
of whack.
happening, what was weird, what was going on, and it was happening a lot, like throughout the day, constantly. I'd be at work, and you know how it is working there at Dan, and you're working by yourself on a long production line. You're doing your everyday things, and people kind of walk up and down your area, and you see them, they ask for stuff, or they come check your stuff. Anyways, I would be busy doing stuff, and I'd see somebody walking up to me in my peripheral, and then as they get closer, I would finally look over to see who it is. Nobody there. So it was happening constantly. I'm like, well, knock it off.
Interesting.
And then it was soon after that when I got into that relationship with my second wife. Another episode. When we were downtown Disney and outside holding hands, walking down in the mall, outdoor mall, and as we're holding hands, I feel something like it almost felt like she was putting her hand up my shirt. And as I'm thinking about it, this is physically impossible. I'm holding her hand, her other hand's on the other side of her body, and she cannot reach all the way behind me, and so that's impossible. Somebody's pickpocketing my ass. So I reach back and turn around real fast. As I do that, I feel that hand pull away, and it scratches my back as it pulls away. And I turn around. The closest person to me is a lady, maybe 15, 20 feet away, and I'm like giving her this weird stank eye, like, what happened? Who are you? And why are you touching me? And she's like, looking at me like, what the fuck's wrong with you, man? So then I tell my ex, I'm like, future ex. I lift up my shirt and I'm like, is there any marks on my back? 'Cause I felt it like go up my back. And she goes, yeah, there's a scratch like going up your back.
Interesting.
And that was like, okay, what's going on? It started like bugging me out, and the more I thought about it, the more bugged out I was getting by it, and then it's got to be paranormal, So that kind of like sparked more interest into it, and I think it wasn't soon after that we went on that tour.
Interesting.
Yeah. Spooky stuff.
I've never heard that story before. I don't think I have. You might have told it. I don't know.
You haven't heard that one?
No, I haven't. I don't
Okay,
think so.
yeah.
But that's interesting.
Yeah, it was, and here's another thing.
That was
So
quite a Disney ghost.
growing up and all the experiences I had, I never was like touched where they were like grabbing me as much as I asked for it. It wasn't until we later on that I was investigating where like that scratch. Well, actually no, I actually did get touched. After it stopped when I was like 13, I said a handful of things did happen, right? One of the things was I was walking out of one of the bedrooms that in the house at our parents' house, which was your old bedroom, and that turned into a computer room. So I remember I was leaving that room, walking out, and my mom was leaving her room, and we were both meeting each other kind of in that landing at the bottom of the stairs. And as I was leaving the room, I felt a finger poke me in the back and nudge me forward. And I remember, like, as we were walking towards each other, my shoulder doing this, and I was like, what? And I asked her, did you see that? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, something poked me. And she hated hearing anything like that.
Right.
So she just didn't want to hear it. She just walked away. She's like, huh. But, yeah, I was like, huh, weird. But, yeah, so that was actually probably was the first time. And then I got that scratch. And then when you and I were at the cemetery, I was getting butt rubs.
Yeah, you're getting touched quite a bit. And everyone blamed it on me, even though I was in front of you. My arms aren't that long.
And then that one house that we did an investigation at a house, and there was those two spirits, those twins.
The twins, I remember
And
that.
I did get my arm grabbed, and it was after the other person from our old team was saying she was getting her wrist grabbed in that room. And later on in that room, when I went back in there, I started getting my wrist grabbed. And then where else was I getting touched later? I know I've been touched more than that.
I've been I think poked once. Have you?
Yeah, actually, I think it was the second, maybe third investigation I ever did with.
Who poked you?
It was
Paul.
no one poked me actually. It was Paul. He touched me. No, we were at the Fort Douglas Military Museum.
Okay.
In what used to be the Navy room before they remodeled, and it was just my friend Brandy and I, or our friend Brandy. She's all of our friends.
Yeah, go hogging her.
Cool. I'm not gonna her and I. She's the ones that I started doing investigations with. And we were in that room, and I stopped dead in my tracks.
Okay.
And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Feel my arm." And for those that you can see on camera, it was kind of like right here on my arm.
Your forearm?
Yeah, it felt really warm. And I'm like, I felt around it, and it was just, normal temperature, really hot.
Huh.
Or not really hot, but it was warmer. And I had her feel my arm, and she's like, "Yeah, it feels warm too." And again, keep in mind, this is before I knew that I kind of knew, but I wasn't 100% sure, that she was a medium. And this might have been after we joined the team. I don't remember exactly when this happened. I just remember we're in this room. My arm started feeling warm, and what she told me was going on is there was actually a older gentleman spirit there that had grabbed my arm because I looked like his son. I reminded him of his son.
Is his son a pirate?
Yes. Yar. Arr. Pirate's favorite letter.
Arr.
You think it's the R, but really it's the C.
Good one. Good one.
So anyway,
What's the sound word?
I knew you were a pirate.
She explained to me that he had grabbed onto my arm, and I actually heard her talking to this guy, and I'm just kind of like, okay. And she's like, explaining to him, like, he's my friend, you have to let him go, he's coming home with me. And the tricky thing is she has this conversation with the spirit, and I can't hear them. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm taking her word for it. And she's like, okay, I'm going to count to 3, and when I get to 3, you're going to let go of his arm. And she's like, okay, and then says, okay again, and then she counts to 3, and as soon as she hit 3, that warm temperature, that warm feeling in my arm went away.
But did you feel it go away?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as soon as she said 3, I felt that warm temperature. And it's the other part was I could feel like the muscles. Like when she told him to let go originally, I could feel like the muscles of my arm like tightening, like he was tightening his grip on my arm. I could feel like the muscles of my arm, everything like getting tighter, like he was squeezing down on it.
Yeah.
And as soon as she got to 3, all that sensation went away. The heat, the tightness of my arm, everything just went away.
Interesting.
And it was probably, I might have been touched other times by spirits, and I probably just didn't realize it. There was that when I walked that little girl downstairs holding her hand.
Oh,
that was I do remember that one. We were all investigating a paper mill or a paper shop or
printing
shop.
Yeah.
And we were using. Dell actually had 3 different spirit boxes that he used, and we got the same name on all 3 of them, which is very rare. You're not.
Do you remember the name?
It was like it started with an E. I can't remember what her name was. It was a little girl though, but she said her name across all 3 different spirit boxes, which is very rare.
Right?
If you're hearing the same name across 3 different devices, chances are that's paranormal.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at you guys, and I'm like, I think I even had you guys like feel my hand. I'm like,
yes.
I'm like, feel it. Like there's someone holding my hand.
Because you were sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was sitting there. I think I was sitting there, and I had my hand with the palm up like this, and I could feel
the K2 was going crazy, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And I could feel like someone holding my hand, and it was funny. Right by that time, I was just like, okay, Brandy's here. I knew she was on her way, but I hadn't actually seen her yet. And I remember telling you guys, I'm like, oh yeah, Brandy's here now. And I look out the window, and she had just barely pulled up and parked.
Wow.
And she came in and actually confirmed that it was a little girl, and I reminded her of her brother.
Yep, I remember.
And she wanted to cross over, so I actually held this little girl's hand. And if you've been watching this, I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. I'm a big dude. Watching me walk down through a hallway and down some stairs with my hand out, holding what to you is going to look like air. Like I couldn't see her either, but I could feel her holding my hand. And I walked her out of the room and walked her downstairs to where she felt safe, so we could cross her over. So that's like the 2 main ones that I can remember where I've actually been
Yeah.
touched by a spirit.
That's cool.
Oh shit! I just remembered the most recent one I just had, where a little boy spirit ran his fingers up the back of my head and freaked me the hell out.
Here at your house, wasn't
Here,
it?
yeah, yeah, because he was playing like a game with me, because he would always hang out at the top of the middle of my stairs, anyways, in the landing, and I would always sense his energy up there, and like I'd look over and I'd kind of see. I don't know. It's hard to explain. See him, but I don't see him. Well, anyways, this time when I felt his energy and knew he was there, and I look over, he wasn't up there. He was at the bottom of the stairs. But the way his energy worked was, it was like shooting up the stairs. Like he would run away. The moment I looked over, he would run up, and I'm like, what the hell is going on with this kid? Anyways, I took a picture and I sent it to Brandy. I'm like, hey, is my buddy in here? She's like, yeah, he's right there. And I told her what I'm seeing him do, and she's like, oh, he's probably like playing a game with you. And I'm like, that's kind of what I was figuring. And as kind of did it a few more times, and I'm starting to watch the show, and I'm getting into the show. I'm not looking at if I could feel his energy presence.
You're not playing anymore.
Yeah, I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah.
Well, then he's like trying to get my attention, and like as I'm watching the show, I feel these little fingers go up the back of my head. I was like, ah! was not expecting that, and I kind of snapped at him. And since then, his presence hasn't been around. I was like, no, and I was just like, don't do that. Like, don't you do that.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of like,
freaky, yeah.
it wasn't like freaky, scary, running out of the house scary. I was laughing at myself that I got that spooked. But it was just like startling. It was very, very startling.
I'd been startled.
And I was laughing at myself. I knew exactly what it was. And it wasn't like I'm going to run out of my house, I'm scared. But I was just laughing.
Yeah, startled, right.
And I'm just like, hey, don't do that shit. It's scary. And I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. See, I love it when people make fun of me when they like, and I don't know if this happens to you too, but when like someone thinks they're being funny and they hide around a corner and they jump out and scare you.
Yeah.
Just in everyday life, not even on an investigation, and you get scared and because you're not expecting it, right? And they're like, oh, and you're a ghost hunter and you got scared by that, and my response always is like,
a startle's a startle.
I'm like, well, when I'm on an investigation, I'm expecting something to happen. I want it to happen. When I'm going to the locker room at work, I'm not expecting anything to jump out and scare me. Like,
well, that's also not how ghost hunting works. Ghosts don't hide around corners, and as soon as you come around, they go, "Ah, I got you, bitch." Scared? Scared now? Ghost hunt much? It's not how it works.
Well, my touching is not as fun. I was investigating a.
On the voodoo doll where the spirit touched you.
Okay. So we were investigating a chiropractor's office, and they just kind of, I don't know, they just had some weird things go on. I don't know, I didn't feel like a lot of things there, but we were in one section, kind of like where they do X-rays. And they said, let's go to the front, because I guess some of the girls that work at the front kind of have more experiences towards the front by the lobby. So we said, okay, let's go. And our friend Deanne was kind of next to me, and I felt someone kind of poke and nudge my side, like to go towards the lobby. But then I was like, but then as I'm walking, I'm like, wait a minute, our distance is kind of a little off, like, and I don't think Deanne would poke me. So I looked back at her and I said, did you just poke me? And she said, no. And then she just had what was it? A ghost meter. Actually, a ghost meter just was asking questions, because right when that happened, it lit up too when I got poked. And so she was asking questions like, "Did you poke him?" And the ghost meter went off like, "Yes, I did." But again, you can't say 100% that ghost is admitting to poking me. But yeah, just like kind of just like a little poke, like, "Yeah, go in that room." So.
We're probably going to be throwing out a lot of different names for like devices and apps and stuff that we use.
There's a lot to talk about.
And we'll fill everybody in on what the stuff is.
Look behind you, sir. There's some devices right at you.
And I was gonna ask you to go grab them.
I knew
so the ghost meter is actually
that's another thing I do.
For those of you that are watching on the video here, this is what we call a ghost meter. I think that's the pro version.
Yes. That's all I do is pro shit.
There is the regular ghost meter and there's the ghost meter pro. The ghost meter, what it does is it's just it's an EMF detector, kind of like the K2 meter, which is this one here. what they do is they detect EMF, and anything can put out EMF from your cell phone to your microwave, your fridge,
What's
just
EMF?
appliances. EMF is electromagnetic fields.
Yes.
And like I said, anything can set it off. Like your cell phone is one of the main things. So if you're like sending or receiving a text, you're on the internet.
It's gonna
Like,
set it off.
it can set it off. So normally when we're on an investigation, we're going to either put our phones on airplane mode or turn them off, just so we don't contaminate the evidence with the EMF meters. So the Ghost Meter Pro though does have a feature on it where you can set it to dialogue mode basically, and you can ask it yes or no questions, and it will move the needle. And you usually have it. There's a little needle on the Ghost Meter Pro, and that's what will sense the EMF. But when you're on dialogue mode, you can actually have the spirit move the needle like one time for yes, like move it all the way back to one end and back for yes, and do it twice for no. And we've actually got a really good evidence and had good conversations with both these devices. I know on a residential that Dell and I did recently, was actually able to find a spirit that was in the closet in the upstairs using the K2 meter. And then I had taken video and pictures and showed it to 2 different mediums that we work with, and they both confirmed that there was a spirit in the closet. And it's just goes to show
I
that
like
these
having the
devices can
K2
work.
because like I feel like I can feel and get drawn to where it is, but then having the K2 visualize it, it's awesome.
Well, I have another EMF meter that I use. I can't remember the name of it, but it has a backlit screen. It has thermometer on it, so you can see temperature differences and all that too. And I've actually got it to, like, if it has enough EMF, it will light up and beep as well. And cool. I've actually had conversations using that EMF meter as well. Like EMF readers like the K2 and the Ghost Meter Pro and others like the Trifil meter is another EMF detector. Those are probably a ghost hunter's best friend and probably the go-to tool, I would say.
But the K2 wasn't even made for that, right? Isn't a K2 like a tool that like home inspectors use or
it was
things
for
like that?
home inspector finding too high of EMFs in the house.
Yeah, because it's not good for you, right? Like if you've got like high energy pumping through the walls from a bad electrical outlet, that's not good for you.
Yeah.
Oh, we found that with residential. The three of us that did recently. There was one room that I was drawn to because I felt a lot of energy from
down
it.
the basement.
And we were able to determine with the K2 that it was the electrical panels, it was their storage room that was just, it wasn't properly, I guess, sealed off from EMF. It wasn't, I don't know the right word.
Yeah.
We're not electricians.
Insulated.
We're not electricians. It wasn't insulated properly, I guess, would be the right word.
I
maybe.
did a little bit of maintenance work.
Yeah, it wasn't properly insulated for EMF, so that whole room was just ambient EMF.
Yeah.
And the theory is with that EMF is that, spirits are being, they're energy beings, right?
Yes.
Which is why we have energy in our name of our team.
Yes.
Is so they can feed off this EMF, these energies, and that's what gives them strength. That's what the theory is. It
they
gives
can
them
feed
strength.
off our energy.
And they can feed off our energy. They can feed off one of the best times or one of the most fun times to investigate is during like a lightning storm, because you got all of that charge coming from the lightning and the storm. And I've been on investigations where it's been stormy outside and we've got like a lot of good activity. Huh. But yeah, that's the theory is that they use this EMF to communicate with us. That's how they get the energy to poke us or grab our arms or leave us EVPs or whatever activity that they're trying to do at the time.
What do you guys think about the tool? A lot of people use the flashlight method.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. If you guys don't know what it is you basically take one of those little pocket flashlights, you unscrew.
You usually want to use
back.
a mag light.
Yeah, like a mag light.
Mag light's the best. It has to be the screw top one.
Yeah, you unscrew it so it's barely touching the battery, and supposedly they could trigger it to where they can make it light up to answer questions. I'm not a big fan of it. What do you think, Beaker?
I have had it work for me a handful of times. More often than not, it's just can be explained away using, I believe it's thermal dynamics or whatever the term is. We used to work with one of the investigators on the other team was an electrician by trade.
Oh.
Or he was an engineer. But he explained this whole thing to me. So when you're putting it on just barely between on and off, so you can tell the spirits to like turn it on to answer yes or no. And I have 2 mag lights that I use. I use one for yes and one for no. So it's like turn this one off if it's yes, turn this on if it's no. And I've had it to where I've had it respond like instantaneously, where ask it a question, turns on. I'm like, okay, thank you. Can you turn it off? And it turns off. And I've had this go on and had detailed conversations that I've had actually confirmed by some of the mediums that we work with. So it can work. But
Right.
more often than not, what is happening is you get it to the point where, like, say you have it on too long and it starts to heat up, well, the metal will contract. And it could cause it to turn just enough that it needs to turn on or turn off. And then as that metal cools down, it starts to...
So it's just
constantly expanding and contracting.
Yeah.
So as it's expanding and contracting, it will constantly turn itself on and off. So if you set up your flashlights and it's doing that right off the bat, it's just turning itself on and on, it'll like stay on for a little bit and then turn itself off. Chances are that's what's going on. But if you set up the flashlights and they're off and you have it sitting there for like a good 10, 15 minutes in the off position, and then they start responding to your questions, more than likely you're talking to a spirit.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think spirits could operate that flashlight and can manipulate it. I do think they can do that. But I think, unless you're like precise with it, I think it's just going to be
really hard to do.
Yeah, it was really hard. I think just most likely it's just a like you were saying, and I don't know how to explain that again, but just it's connecting, disconnecting,
it's
reconnecting.
that constant contraction and expanding. It's turning itself on and off. And I believe it was thermodynamics or whatever the term is. But it's if you get it too hot, like it stays on, it gets too hot, it starts to expand and it turns itself off. And then as it's cooling down, it contracts and it turns itself in the other direction and turns itself back on. And it's just a repeated process that keeps going with that, like I said, expanding and contracting, turning itself on and off. So more often than not, that's what's happening. I'd say probably maybe 10% of the time I've done a flashlight session, it's been actual paranormal. I'd say 90% of the time, it's just turning itself on and off.
So that being the case, that would need to be a spirit using its energy to push that in order to get it to turn off and on.
Right.
So have you guys ever seen a spirit move anything?
Heard, but not seen.
I don't think I...
One of the craziest things I didn't actually physically see this, but this is at the restaurant that we used to investigate, the Family Tree Restaurant. They've recently closed down. They sold to someone else, which was unfortunate. It was a fun place to investigate. But I was there one night after work with a bunch of other people, and they had like 4 or 5 like long booths with the tables. And as we're doing our investigation, we noticed every single table is pulled to the left. They're all pulled to the left. In every single booth, the table is against the benches on the left. And we're like, oh, that's weird. So we go and reposition everything, all the tables, and put them all back in the center, the way they were. We go back to investigating. About 5 minutes later, we turn around, and they are all pulled to the left again.
Oh.
So these are big tables. Like, if
That's cool.
you would have to physically lift these up and move them to not hear them scraping against the floor.
Yeah.
We didn't hear anything.
Interesting.
Like I said, we didn't physically see it, but we did go, like I said, we repositioned these tables and put them back where they were supposed to be.
Right.
And I kid you not, 5 minutes later, all 5 of them had shifted all the way to the left again.
That's interesting. It's almost poltergeist, right? Like,
yeah,
when things are moving like that.
So I've seen at a friend's house something hanging on the wall, and we weren't even there for an investigation or anything. It was just we were out drinking that night, and then we were back at his house, and we were just hanging out doing nothing. It was like some kind of a calendar or day plan or something hanging on the wall, and all of a sudden we hear this noise. We look over, and it's hanging here. It's like 2 feet away, like hitting stuff over here and then hitting the ground.
Oh.
It's like,
Something
what?
like knocked it off the
Yeah,
wall?
like it flew sideways and then dropped.
Oh, interesting.
And we all looked over and nothing's around it. I mean, somebody was somewhat close to it, but not close enough to do it. And then as we look over, they're not be over there making a note,
Yeah.
So you knew it wasn't them doing it. But yeah, it was pretty wild. What else? I remember, so we grew up with water beds.
Yes.
I would have, like, things would sit down on my bed and it would, like, plop down on the bed.
I've had something like that happen too. Like I've had one day where I woke up because I felt someone hitting my bed or like it felt like someone jumping on my bed. I've had another time where I've actually heard spirits, where I'm like sleeping and I just hear this little girl's voice, and I know who it was my aunt,
Mhm.
but I hear this is not how you want to wake up. Where you're in that kind of, half awake, half asleep mode because you're just barely waking up, but you're not ready to actually get up yet, and then you just hear this little girl's voice go, "Hi," in your ear. Yeah,
Wow.
I was up and out of the room. I was just like, nope.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah. I don't like that.
I've had a hay. What was it? I can't remember. But yeah, I've had that. Yeah, right in your face. Like, it's weird.
Ooh.
And it sounds like they're right there too.
Have you had any experiences like that?
I haven't, and I don't know. Like, I'm on the fence if I even want that. It's like yes, I want it for the evidence and for the story, but also it's like, no, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
So have either one of you seen, like, I know we just talked about how we've kind of heard spirits, like I talked about with the high in the ear, I've heard other stuff too, but have you physically seen like a full body apparition?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. I saw. I saw my grandpa, but the way I saw him was like, he was, imagine a shadow, a 3-dimensional shadow. You could see through it though.
Like a shadow person.
Yeah, like almost like a shadow person, but not like pitch black. So transparent, but almost like watching like the snowy Channel 3, just all staticky.
Yeah.
But more dark, like a darker staticky like that, and transparent. And he was like sitting next to me. He turned and like we saw each other. Like when I turned and saw him, he turned and looked at me. I instantly knew it was him, and then like I didn't even blink my eyes, and he was just gone. It was just like instantly gone, and I remember I booked it downstairs. You were in our parents' room with our parents, and I just was like, I just seen him, and telling you guys what I saw, and you're all like, crazy ass kid, get out of here.
Yeah, I've been seeing.
So I did, and I saw an old lady, peeking in my room. It wasn't like her full body, but it was just like her hands and her head peeking in my room, like hands on the door frame, head inside, looking at me. And I've seen shadow people, seen a few shadow people. I've seen a person walking on the freeway, and when I came around it wasn't even a corner, it was just like a curve, and it looked like he was walking in the left shoulder, and he was like walking to where I was kind of driving, he disappeared around that little curve, and I remember going, and I said it out loud, it sucks for him, because it's cold, it was a cold, really cold morning, and I remember just looked like he was just like all in blue, just walking. And then when I kind of made around that curve, there was no car there. There was no person there. The wall was tall, so there was no like cut in the wall where somebody could have been walking and then like kind of ran behind like a break in the wall or hopped over a median, because it was really tall right there. Oh. So I remember that was when I saw that, and when I saw a couple of the shadow people. That was during that first divorce. Like, that's when I was, like, things were, like, happening again. But, now I feel like I'm seeing things in my head, though. It's like, when I see the spirits, I'm not seeing a full-body apparition like I used to see with my eyes. It's like, I feel their energy there, but when I like, get a vision of what they look like in my head. Uh-huh. But I'm not seeing it with my eyes. So, I haven't seen a full body apparition in a long time.
Neither have I. I've seen 2 like full on apparitions.
Oh, you have?
And I've seen a couple just like shadow figures. They've been actual like people that I've seen. Like there was one that was kind of the shadowy guy. I was sitting in my car when I got home from work, and I get home around 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, because I work later, and I just happened to look in the rearview mirror, and I see what looked like someone ducking down behind my brother's truck. Oh. And so I kind of went out to investigate. There's nobody there. So I'm like, okay, and I went inside. There was another time where...
That's what's funny, because that's what the shadow people do. When you notice them, they duck.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I think it might have been the same spirit the second time I saw him. I saw someone walking through, like, by the my front yard, like the sidewalk in my front yard, and it looked like they were getting ready to cross the street. And I was waiting for them to come out from the other side of my brother's truck, and no one ever came out. Like I literally saw them walk behind his truck, and then they were just gone.
Interesting.
Those are the shadowy ones. I've actually seen two like full color, like I was looking at like you guys, like it looked like an actual person was there. The one of them was, the second one was after I started investigating. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I go upstairs to get a glass of water, and this is the last thing you want to see at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's a little girl standing in your kitchen,
Whoa.
watching you. Again, I know who it is. It was my aunt.
Okay.
But I saw her standing there, and I mean, it was a little girl. She was wearing a white dress. You know, she had like shoulder length brown hair, and she was just standing there watching me. And I've actually asked Brandy about it, and she's like, you know, because she can see and talk to her. She knows she's there, and she said that she just wanted me to see her, so I knew that my dad wasn't crazy. Because my dad tells me all sorts of stories about stuff, and my dad's got some very fascinating stories, which I may or may not get onto on one of these episodes. But my dad has a lot of awesome stories when it comes to the paranormal. And one of my favorites is when he was a kid. He was like 3 years old. This is after his sister died. She was older. You know, my dad's, he's in his 70s now. But when he was younger, they had the roller skates that they had the keys. You put on the bottom of your shoe, and they had the keys that locked him in. So I guess he was,
I remember those things.
Right. So I guess he was using a pair of those when he was like 3 or 4, and one of his aunts or somebody said to him, "Be careful, so you don't hurt yourself." And he says, "No, it's okay. Ivy Jane's here with me." She was the one that passed away.
Right.
So, and he'd probably get mad if he knew I was sharing the story, but I think it's a cool story.
Yeah.
So, like I said, she's been with my dad ever since she passed away. She's been kind of his like guardian angel. But the first one I saw, and I didn't realize at the time, this kind of tripped me out because it was when I worked at my last job, when I worked at a warehouse that does shipping of product of the backcountry outdoor type stuff. Backcountry.com. I was a forklift driver, and I did some problem solving as well. And I was sitting at my computer desk, and I, turn over to grab, one of the problems that I'm working on, and I see someone standing next to my forklift. And I remember he's got the blue jeans, he's got a blue t-shirt, he's got a red cap on, he had, about ear length, like chin length, like dark brown hair.
Okay.
Like, I remember this dude fully. Like, but I didn't know who he was. I'm like, there's some random dude that's not on my crew standing next to my forklift. So I got up and I went to walk around this pile of boxes that I was working on. And within a matter of seconds, that's all it took me to walk around these boxes, he was gone. Nowhere to be found. I started walking up and down all of the different aisles that we use for the forklifts, and like I couldn't find him. So that was another one. I happened to be driving past it with Brandy, and I'm like, "Hey, is there a guy there wearing this kind of clothes?" And she's like, "Yeah."
Is there any stories of that place that you know of?
So what I think this particular spirit was is there was a coworker I had. He was a really cool guy. He had diabetes, I believe it was. And I believe he went into shock or something, and ended up passing away because of this, or he had some sort of illness, and
got real spooky here.
we're just setting the mood. Yeah, but he ended up passing away, and when I look back on this description, this looked like that guy.
Okay.
And I know how much the guy loved working. He loved that place.
Interesting.
Like, I know he had a rough time in his life, and working there at Backcountry with all of us kind of started bringing some of that positive back into his life. I know how much he loved that place. So to me, it made sense that if that was him, that he would be there. I mean, it looked exactly like the guy from what I could tell.
Interesting. That's cool. So I haven't seen any full body apparitions. I've just seen, I've seen tons of orbs, but I've actually seen two that significant orbs. And I'm not a big fan of orbs. I think I'd say 99.9% of orbs are just dust particles or
water molecules.
Yeah, water molecules. Just it's bugs, all sorts of stuff. But these the two that
Demons.
I saw were pretty. I don't know if I want to say they moved intelligently, but they had a pattern to the movement. So one was in a bedroom. We were investigating a house, and I was in a bedroom, and I asked a question, and we had the door closed. It was kind of dark in the room, And so it was pretty dark, and I just saw like a little light above the bed, and I looked down. It was like a bluish, greenish light, and it kind of hovered over the bed and went across the length of the bed, and then went up into the ceiling and then vanished. I actually caught some of that on video, and probably we're actually gonna set up our social media. I gotta find that video, maybe I'll share it on our social media. And it vanished, and then I had I think I actually had Brandy look at it. She said, "Yeah, that's."
We're probably
That's
gonna
a
mention her
person.
name quite a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna name drop.
One thing I've noticed, like with orbs, if I've had people send me videos that they've had with their like Ring doorbells, and they're like, "Oh, check out this orb," and I respond back to them because I can sometimes feel, not all the times, but for the most part, I can feel energy in videos and pictures.
Yeah.
I can't always pinpoint exactly where it's at, but I can tell it's there. And I had someone actually sent me a video, and I looked at it, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't believe this is a spirit. I think it's just dust or a bug or something else." And they got all defensive and like kind of
No, it's
attacked
gross.
me. And it's just like, I
Slam
hope,
you against the wall. No, it's not. It's a ghost.
well, this is all through email, but still, it's just, but it's just like, one thing I do ask is if you do send us evidence, and we give you our honest opinion,
I'm
we're
gonna say you're
just,
full of shit every time. Just kidding.
we're just going to give you our honest opinion, and we could be wrong, and we could be right. It's just our opinion, and we ask that when you do share your evidence with us, and we give your opinion, please don't be offended.
Right.
Just because we're not trying to be rude, we're not trying to say you're crazy or anything like that.
No, there's sometimes too where you could see in the video. I'll get those videos too, and they're like, "What do you think this is?" And you're seeing this like light anomaly, right? And it's kind of looking like it's bouncing around and stuff. And then you notice it's moving in sync, kind of with the camera or with something else that's moving, causing a
light
reflection. And it's kind of doing the same thing.
Reflection, yeah.
And then I'll point it out, and then they're just kind of like, "Well, what about?" And you're like, "No, it's not."
That's why we like to come. Like, if you're having issues at your house, we'll come to your house and do a proper investigation, because there could be things in a video that could be paranormal that we're not seeing, or could not be paranormal. Doesn't mean there's not something going on in your house. Video can only show us so much. Pictures can only show us so much.
Yeah.
So we actually have to. It's best to physically be in the location so we can do a proper investigation and determine what we're dealing with and the best course of action to help you either remove the spirit or cope with it or whatever needs to be done.
I wish like video, like our phones that are just so accessible now, was a thing back when I was having everything happen to me as a kid.
Do you think you would have remembered to grab it though?
Oh, some of the things that were happening, I definitely had time to grab a phone out.
Have you ever watched those ghost hit videos on TikTok? Everybody's got time to pull their phone out and catch ghost video.
So I don't know. Mine would look like, because I would back then I would get like my spider senses would go off, and I knew some shit was gonna happen, and so as soon as I would get that electrical charge, and I would almost hear, you could almost like hear the electricity in the air. That's when I would have pulled my phone out right then and there and just start recording. All right, you creepy fucks, where you at?
I'm ready. All right, interesting. Anything else? What's about on the first episode? Covered a lot.
How long are we?
We're about an hour in almost.
Okay.
I'd say right about an hour. Yeah, that's a good episode.
It was a good first episode, I think. And we're working on things, working on lighting still. So if you're watching the video, you can see that the lights are kind of going in and out. But we're working on that.
Yes. And we have other audio equipment on the way too. Like, it's actually, it arrived while I was at work, and I came straight from work to the recording studio, so I didn't have time to actually get it and bring it here. So the sound quality might get better, it might get worse. I don't know.
I think every episode's going to get better.
It's going to get better. We're not new to podcasting. I've been on another show about the paranormal for the last 5-6 years. I know you guys have done the Buko Boys podcast, and you actually had 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
Like this setup is set up for 2 people, so there's 3 of us sharing
2 microphones. So we've actually got another setup that we're working on. Unfortunately, the stuff got delayed. It was supposed to have been here yesterday.
Oh, man.
And it got delayed due to a snowstorm in Vegas. So the next time we record, we'll have all the other stuff that I've purchased for the podcast.
It'll keep getting better. We're getting our things put together. Like I said, our social media, email. We're getting everything set up so you guys can contact us and stay connected to us too. So that's all in the works as well.
Well, I think that's going to be an episode then.
All right.
All right, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to catch you next time.
Smell y'all later.
Peace out, butterflies.